Oh, thank you very much. Welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners issues and updates on this 2/2/2022 date. Yes, a lot of people get married on similar dates like this. Gary, please head up the first item of discussion.
Thank you, Chair Smith and commissioners. All commissioners are present today. You have a long list and you have a hard stop at noon. So we will go through as much as we can, and I will reorder some of these items to do the most urgent items first. So with that in mind, we're going to start with the proposed Oak Lodge Water and Sanitary Authority. This is a continued conversation from last week. We're going to bring several people into the room. If we could pause for just a moment. So Jeff Munns, and then from the Oak Lodge Water Services Board, we have board members Susan Keel and Jenny Van Loo, and then staff Sarah Jo Chaplin and Tommy Brooks. They are not presenting, they're only here to answer your questions, but Jeff will give a quick update. Chair, did you want to say an opening comment first?
I do. I had made some statements last week regarding moving forward for the Oak Lodge Water District becoming an authority. And I was talking with Jeffrey Mums online. There were 3 commissioners present. We were going back and forth on what the law was, what is expected, can we have a vote, things like that. And Jeffrey really has a nice presentation and points of clarification according to the law that we must perform or not perform. And even though I would like to see this to go for a vote of the citizenry, it's not like the Hoodland Park District situation, it's different. But I'm gonna have Jeffrey explain those items to us. And you know, you don't know what you don't know. And we've never really done this before, right? Susan Keel and Jimmy Van Loo. And so what we're gonna do is, commissioners, hold your hands. I'm not gonna acknowledge any hands raising until we fully vet this particular issue, Jeffrey Mums, what is being asked of us and what are actions available to us according to law. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Chair Smith. Yes, after our meeting last Wednesday, I had a chance to go over this with counsel for Oak Lodge as well, and they helped out with this memo that I presented to you to take a look at, to go through this process for formation of a joint water and sanitary authority. You know, currently Oak Lodge Water Services is a district, and what they're proposing with this order is that the Board of County Commissioners would initiate a process to transform them into a joint water and sanitary authority. There's 2 ways to do that, and they've chosen this way with the county board to initiate the process. The other would be that if citizens were to have a petition and circulate it and get enough signatures, and then it would come back to the board and there would be a public hearing on that. So what Oak Lodge has asked, though, is that instead of going through that process, the board of Oak Lodge Water Services has presented an order for your consideration. That order would be something that you would consider just as a discussion item. And if you approve the order, what it would do is set the first public hearing for formation of the authority. And so this order would take the place of a petition. They both end up in the same place, which is a first public hearing. And in the first public hearing, you review what is presented. In this case, it would be the order and the kind of the supporting documents that Oak Lodge has prepared to talk about why an authority is a necessary formation change for their entity moving forward. And so that would be the discussion, as well as aligning it to factors that are in the statute, much as you've done in Hoodland. So that's where the processes sort of come together and are similar. The difference with this authority process versus the Hoodland Park petitions you've looked at recently is the Park District has a permanent rate, and that would be a tax on this residents within that proposed area. The Oak Lodge Water Services Authority presentation or proposal is rate supported. So it's not a tax, it's a rate. And so the difference there is if the board were to approve an order to form the authority, then it would set up a second public hearing, which is a process we don't have to do in Hoodland. And the second public hearing is to receive requests from electors within the proposed district to ask for an election. And if less than 100 requests are received, then Oak Lodge Water Authority would be formed by that order. And what would go to the ballot is simply just the board member positions to serve on the new authority. If we received 100 or more requests from electors, to have an election on this question of should there be an authority, then the question of formation and the board member positions would be on the ballot. So there's no way for the Board of County Commissioners to put this on the ballot by themselves. You're really running a process under the statute, which is what first public hearing to consider should it happen, second public hearing to find out if there's enough requests for an election or to approve your order forming the authority. So that's what the board's responsibility is in this process, is just simply to consider it in the first public hearing, and that's the primary input. The second public hearing is to determine whether that it's going to get formed or if the voters are going to choose if it's going to get formed because you would have received enough requests to do so. And after that process, it's up to the voters. If you've already formed it, the voters would choose the board, and then your role in this process is complete. If the electors wanted it to go to the ballot and the voters approve it, then it would come back to the board to enter an order now at that point forming the district, or if they didn't approve it, then dismissing the process and vacating your earlier orders. So it's kind of a basic overview of the process. They use the same laws as in the Hoodland Park petition process, but it works a very different path because of the way that this proposed authority is to be funded, which is by a rate of the people served who are receiving the service, as opposed to Hoodland Park District, where it's taxes on their property.
So Jeffrey, statutorily speaking, let's just sum up for a moment. We cannot refer this to the voters unless there are 100 or more electors coming in, signing a piece of paper saying this needs to go to a vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the Oak Lodge Water District is within their authority to ask for an authority moving forward. And under law, it is a decision point that must be made by the governing body, which is the Board of County Commissioners, correct?
That's correct. Their request comes to you in the proper form to choose this path. There is no path for the Board of Oak Lodge Water Services to come to you with a petition. Their choice is to present this order path. Now that's, otherwise it would be run by electors within the proposed district, and it could be different. It has different requirements that are part of it, but this is the proper form for Oak Lodge Water Services to bring this issue before you.
Okay. Do you have any other points you want to make, Jeff?
No, I think I'd be happy to answer any questions, but that's really the overall framework for the process.
Okay. I see one hand up, commissioners. Now's the opportunity for you to opine or ask questions. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I have a question, and I have the rest of my statement that I'd like to say. So my first question is, down below on your memo, Jeffrey, you speak to the process that CRW went through, whereby the Metro Land Use Board, whatever, approved it, and then it was appealed by Oregon City, and then ultimately LUBA ruled in on that. And you also cited that Metro Committee or role or function no longer exists. But I imagine, and what's not included in that last paragraph there, what I imagine is that LUBA still has the authority to receive an appeal if we approve this, correct or not?
The primary path for challenging a decision of the board on this is through a writ of review into circuit court, not through LUBA. That's not to say that somebody couldn't choose to go that path, but the method that was used for the CRW process is no longer in place. It would be an entirely new set of facts that really we don't contemplate in this situation. But it's a good point. Metro's authority has changed, but the primary path would be a writ of review to say that you did something that's not supported by the statute, and they would take it into circuit court.
Yeah, but does not preclude anyone from going to LUBA and taking it. That's a less expensive route, I understand, than it is going through the circuit court, correct?
Well, possibly. The question of can we be sued for this essentially is one that's like, yes, you can always be sued for anything. But I think that this process puts you in the best position to have it be more, handle it properly is the better choice. Then, you can't always account for what somebody might do, but the process is set up to send this into circuit court for writ of review.
Okay. So my statement, thank you, Jeffrey. So my statement I want to make is that I was a little bit surprised last week when this came up about putting to a vote. I'm not supportive of that. Apparently, that's not our role anyhow. I appreciate the clarification. My concerns are the very same as they were in November, December when this came to us late last year. I'm not moving the goalposts; they're one and the same. But I thought maybe a better way of explaining this might be helpful today, and just putting it in different words. So I appreciate Oak Lodge Water Services convening a group or meeting with our staff and myself, and I think Commissioner Smith was involved, but she was unable to attend. And I appreciate seeing the map that staff showed us, Oak Lodge Water Services map of who owned what stormwater drainage facilities and where. And all good information. Really appreciate that. We had a good conversation. But the point I've really been trying to make all along here is this. And keep in mind, we have HB 2001 upon us and HB 2003 upon us. So we're going to see a lot more growth and infill. And the cost currently to do a development in independent water retention facilities is exorbitant. Okay, far more than what would be a comparable SDC if people didn't have to build their own facility. So with that in mind, I want to say this. Most of the property within the geographic boundaries of Oak Lodge Water Services is held and owned by the ratepayers of Oak Lodge Water Services. Granted, county owns some, ODOT owns some, other jurisdictions, but the ratepayers own a substantial amount of the geographic area. When it rains outside, and it's a heavy event, that rain doesn't just rain on the roads, it rains everywhere. And it has been a practice in this particular area, I know it well, being on the boards in the past, that the drainage facilities on these properties, the ratepayer properties, drains into these shared facilities, some of which ODOT owns, some of which county owns, some of which the district owns. So who owns the particular facilities is not really what's at issue. It's who owns the responsibility for those storm events. And that's why these storm detention facilities are built or required or some alternative to that. So with that in mind, and also in mind that we have a tremendous amount of pressure to build all this housing, that we could see a lot more impervious surfaces, I believe, thinking holistically and long-term in a broad perspective here, that this is a great opportunity to work and have some kind of a better agreement or a master plan or a joint master plan, whatever it takes, that I think would solidify the request to go from a district to an authority and be able to withstand a LUBA or a circuit court appeal. I think that greater good is something that would give us and bona fide the effort.
Okay, Paul, thank you. You made a very, very long statement. We have two guests, Susan Keel and Jenny Van Loo. You posed some questions to them. I'm going to let one or both of them answer several of your questions right now. Shannon, let them talk. Susan, you're up.
Okay. Yes. Paul, I think we need to continue to work on the stormwater issues. And while the lion's share is your infrastructure, it impacts the customers that we have in that area. So we're committed to doing that. I'm not sure that I want to get into the legal issues that I just heard Jeff describe, but it doesn't seem to me that the issue of suing and going to court has any bearing on this stormwater issue. But frankly, we have that MS4 permit that we're in together to handle stormwater. We will have a stormwater or surface water master plan when we complete the sanitary one. And something you don't know about is that you may know that our permit is out for review, the discharge permit for the treatment plant. And we have been told that the requirements are going to be much more stringent. And so we're going to require tertiary treatment. And we also have a pump station that's been underperforming that we're going to have special regulations and a requirement to upgrade that pump station. Those are really big millions of dollars numbers. So we're not in a position, we're going to be talking to our ratepayers about those. We're not in a position to just commit to do the stormwater management on a system that arguably is diverse between yours and privately owned and a little bit for ODOT and a little bit for us out of our ratepayer dollars without having the discussion about all of the financial requirements.
Susan, didn't you present to this board a month or so ago? You got a grant for a small study area.
Well, actually,
what's that called? What was that called?
Well, we just committed to spend some dollars.
Okay, your dollars.
Yeah, the ratepayer dollars on an area that we consider the most egregious, and I think the county agrees with that. And so we're doing an analysis of what can be the most help in fixing that thing. So that's the study we're doing right now. And we'd like to, with the county, prioritize the areas in our district. We know what we get the complaints on, but it really requires a much deeper planning and prioritization so that we can do this thing together and direct resources jointly to these things.
I would agree that I think quite possibly in this situation, it's all hands on deck.
Right.
We'll be seeing more growth in the area, in the unincorporated areas of the services that you offer. This board has passed, more density here and there based on what the Oregon legislature has told us to do. So we can't get by with that. However, I'm not willing not to go forward on the formation of the authority until all these drain water problems are fixed. It's going to be decades for us to fix the drain water. And I'm going to commissioners refer to Jeffrey Mumm's memo on page 5. He says, of note, Metro no longer has a Metro Boundary Appeal Commission, and it no longer plays a substantive role in authority formation. The only role Metro has in the process is ministerial. So therefore, what had happened legally with Clackamas River Water District, as Commissioner Savas was referring to, probably will not happen in the same fashion. Jeffrey Mumm says anybody can sue, but who's going to be paying the bill to sue? I think that we have other commissioners who want to make comments on this. Jenny, do you have anything to say now, or would you like to listen to the other two? I have two commissioners with hands up who might have some questions.
Yes, I'd like to listen to what they have to say. I can say something if you want me to, but I'd rather reserve my time.
Okay, thank you. So Commissioner Scholl's up and then Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, good morning. I have been very impressed with the professionalism of the Water Service Board in this matter. I've also heard from many constituents of the Water Service District, and they're all very positive about going forward with the authority. And I would like to see this go to a first public hearing as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
As I was reading through this, I've noticed that staff hasn't changed its recommendation that we move forward with this. Is that correct? Because I know we talked about it on February 16th. It's come back to us today. So I'm assuming with the packet I have that recommendation still stands, Mr. Mumm?
That's correct. This has come to us in the proper form. Our role is not so much to recommend, because this is a request from Oak Lodge and it's come to us in the proper form, and it's appropriate for your consideration.
Okay. So I guess my other question is, I think I know the difference between an authority and a district, but could you just elaborate on that a little bit to make sure I have it solid in my head?
Sure. The real difference between the two is in how they're treated for purposes of annexation with a neighboring city. Is that right? An authority, any decision regarding an annexation request by a neighboring city would come back before this board to determine then what is in the best interest of those served in that area.
Okay, so we would let's say if there was an annexation well with Milwaukee, then we would choose who would service them, whether it be a authority or some other district that's already extant.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, you're right. In the case, if there remain a district in the city of Milwaukee, for instance, or to annex a portion of Oak Lodge Water Services, they would have the option under ORS Chapter 222 to withdraw that portion from the district and then provide the service themselves. And this happens in the case of fire districts around the state. If it were an authority, then that decision would come back before the board to determine what is in the best interest through that process. But it's, it's really fact specific. So it depends on what the circumstances are. But it really, in the case of authority, would allow them, the big difference as they talked about in their materials is it helps with their capital investment and they're going out for bonds. If they have the stability of a stable boundary to remove that instability, which results in essentially cheaper debt, less unknowns when they go out to obtain their bond. And that helps with the rate that they have to pay and lowers the rates in turn to their ratepayers.
It will save them money in the long run.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's what they have in their materials as well. It were submitted with the original staff report in this.
Okay, Commissioner Savas, your hand is up.
Yeah, I'll be brief. As I stated before, I'm definitely in support of, at the right time, in my opinion, moving forward to convert Oak Lodge Water Services to an authority. So I'm all in favor of that. I don't want any confusion over that. I just want to make sure that we get it as right as we can and we can stand up against an appeal. I do have and have had a number of inquiries and discussions with other people that build housing, lawyers, and everywhere else that really feel that this is the right time to engage in something that's more substantive as far as whether it's an IGA between us all or whatnot to tackle this problem. Because if we don't tackle it, and we're going to have some challenges with the property. I also want to remind everyone that Clackamas County is also a ratepayer within Oak Lodge Water Services, and we have stake in this as well.
Jeffrey Mums, you're up.
Thank you. I was just going to add to what Commissioner Savas is saying about this topic of stormwater. It's not something that is part of this process to reform Oak Lodge Water Services District into an authority. It's a governance issue. And so if this were to happen, Oak Lodge Water Services and all of its employees just transform into an authority, honestly, what it affects the most are the board members, because then there would be an election for new board members for the authority. But the operations would continue, and that would be something that's part of the order that's forming this, that, the dates and assets and those types of things that would transfer, and all the employees would transfer under the Oregon Employee Transfer Act. So Public Employee Transfer Act. So that's something that is a governance issue for the entities in whatever format going forward, but not part of this process to reform into an authority. But obviously a big topic for our continued operations.
And I am in favor of going forward on approving this. With that in mind, I'm going to call on Gary in a minute. We need to publicize this as much as possible for our first public hearing. And so it will be noticed by who is going to be noticing this and or invite people to testify at the first public hearing. I'm thinking of a March 10th date, people, so we can get people. So to get information out there, it just takes a while to get information out there. Gary, would you opine on that?
Yes. So commissioners, you would agree to schedule a public hearing. We would be responsible for promoting it because it's you meeting as the Board of County Commissioners. Although we'd ask our friends at the Oak Lodge District to share it as well, so we can get as many people as possible to comment. Jeff, could you help me? Does there need to be 2 weeks notice minimum?
The statute's silent on the time frame, but we have to post it in several places as well as publish it in a newspaper. And so those are all things that we would take care of with our boundary consultant as well as, with staff. But then any further publication would be something that we normally would work with the entity asking for this, whether it be petitioners or in this case, Oak Lodge, to do their own outreach. But because our publication is just described in the statute.
Okay. All right.
Chair, I would strongly encourage at least the typical minimum 30-day notice on a hearing.
Well, the second hearing, Paul, is a 30-day notice beyond this one, right, Jeffrey?
Well, the first one's the most important.
Well, yes. The first thing we're asking on March 10th, potentially, as you just stated, Chair Smith, would be a discussion item on the question of the order. And then after the order would just set the public hearing, and you could, the statute for in the case of petitions is 30 to 50 days after it's presented, and you could do the same thing here with your order. There's no requirement, but you'd have plenty of time to set when the public hearing would be for the first one. And the second public hearing would have to follow 20 to 50 days after the first.
So I suggest, commissioners, we go ahead and set the first public hearing for March 10th. It gives a couple weeks notice to advertise it, because this has not been presented to the public. You do realize that. We've just had internal discussions on this, and we need to hear from the public. It's transparency in good government. After the March 10th hearing, we will make a decision on when to have the next hearing. They have already missed the May primary deadline for vote on this. So am I correct in assuming that this will come up in a special election in August?
That's correct.
Yes.
So, and this particular entity really wants to get moving on this. Gary, what is our decision point today?
Just seeking at least 3 of you to agree to hold a first public hearing on March 10th. I'm seeing 3 thumbs up. So.
Martha, are you okay with that? Paul, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just wish we could give it actually a little bit more time, like another couple of weeks.
Paul, it will have lots of time, a lot of airing of the differences, a lot of conclusions, and I assume that Susan and Jenny, you or your representatives and your attorney will be making presentations at that time.
Yes.
Okay, good. Jenny, you did not say anything. Are you okay?
I'm fine, and thank you very much. I'd just like to, for Paul's ear, I'd like to say storm is one of my issues as well. I'm a fish person, and I want the rivers and the streams as clean as they can get before we drop stuff in the river. So I'm working on that. And as you said, Tootie, in the very first, this is not something we can solve overnight. It's going to take a while.
It is.
And we need to work together. And so far, it looks like we're moving in those directions. So I'm pretty happy. And thank you, commissioners, for taking your time out today. I know it's a little different than what you're used to, but we appreciate the fact that you're giving us the opportunity to go forward. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I know you do. Thank you. Gary, is that it for this topic?
That is it. Yes.
Okay. All right. What's next?
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. We're adjusting the agenda now, moving back to Water Environment Services request for consent agenda. Chair, would you please read that you are convening as the West Board?
Yeah, we will now adjourn as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Water Environment Services Board.
Thank you, Chair. Shannon, if you bring in Greg Geis, please. Greg is the Director of Water Environment Services. We'll wait just a second for him to join. All right, Greg, there you are. Okay, these are requests for consent agenda for the Water Environment Services Board. Number 1, approval of a goods and services contract between Water Environment Services and Tribeca Transport for long-haul biosolids transport and application. Maximum contract value is $2 million funded through Water Environment Services operational funds. No county general funds are involved. Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Greg Geis. I'm the Director of Clackamas Water Environment Services. This is an issue that we've talked about several times. Back in August, with board approval, we solicited bids for hauling our biosolids. We received a successful bidder, Tribeca, and what we're asking now is to actually execute that contract. We are at the end of a 6-month window. If we don't do this by February 27th, then we would most likely have to rebid the project. So this is a sensitive item because it impacts 2 positions here at WES. We've been talking to the union about this since 2019. We shared got their input on the financial analysis that we did. We believe that we're well within Oregon revised statutes on how to do this type of thing. We're trying to do it in the most generous way possible, in that we do not have permanent union employees in those two positions. They are currently being filled by temporaries. We had a couple retirements. So there won't be any active union employees that are impacted. We've also committed to retaining these two positions within WES and repurposing them in the future to what will almost certainly be higher paying union positions. So, and I also want to add that this is not something that we're looking at doing whole cloth. This body of work, our peers locally, Clean Water Services, Gresham, City of Portland, they all contract out this particular type of hauling. And they've been doing that for, in some cases, decades. So while I appreciate that this may make some folks uncomfortable and it may look like it could be a slippery slope, we are not looking at outsourcing any other bodies of work anytime soon.
I see Commissioner Fisher, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I'm just asking that when it comes time to vote on this, that we pull the agenda item and have some discussion at the meeting so that I can explain the information that I've requested regarding what types of jobs will be created with this contract, and that I have not received that information. And because of that, I will not be supporting it. I welcome Tribeca to assure me as a county commissioner that we are not, that the jobs are similarly situated to those that we are handing over to them. But without that assurance, I don't feel comfortable moving forward.
Okay, yes, that's always an option available to any commissioner. Thank you for that. Commissioner Scholl, your hand is up.
Yes, we've talked about this for months and months. I look forward to seeing this approved on the agenda this week.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. As I look forward to seeing this approved on Thursday, Commissioner Savas, your hand is up.
Yeah, I concur with a lot of what Commissioner Fisher said. We have talked about this a lot. I'm hoping because I have a commitment on Thursday that we can have this early on the agenda so that I can participate in the discussion ideally. If not, I understand. I would like to, and not today, but I would like to express then, and if I can't, let me know, maybe I can put it in writing, my other concern really about the financial aspects of, and the delicacy of our negotiations with staff, or not our staff, with staff in regards to our contract negotiations with in our labor force, and keeping the morale high and not risking the financial consequences. It could be, in my opinion, for every dollar we save, we could actually lose a heck of a lot more if we don't handle this correctly. That's a concern I have. It's just the timing is awkward. It's not the best timing, and just too bad we could not have gotten in front of this much sooner. I'll conclude my thoughts there. Thank you.
Well, according to Greg Geis, this has been under consideration since 2019. Greg, what are the overall savings of this contract moving forward?
It's approximately $3.5 million over the next 5 years.
Okay. And no jobs will be lost.
None.
Correct. And how many other entities like yourself are doing this type of work?
And I can't think of anybody of our size that continues to do this work in-house.
So all these similar entities have already done and put in place the procedures that you're asking this board to approve.
I wouldn't say all, but
most
the majority. It's the industry standard, yes.
It's the industry standard. We're trying to keep up with the industry standard. Okay. Martha, what's your opinion on this?
I think we do need to move forward with this. What has helped me is that Greg's assurance that no union jobs are being lost. Is that correct, Greg?
That is correct.
Right. That essentially we're following a framework that is, what are the other entities? Portland, could you name a few of them?
Portland, Gresham, Clean Water Services.
That's Clean Water Services is Washington County?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, we're following that structure at this point. And what you're also assuring me is that there will be additional union jobs available as you ramp up as Wes. Is that correct?
Yes,
All right. And what is the union that we normally, I think it's AFSCME, is it not?
it is.
Okay. I think my big concern is, I know this is going to be a sticky wicket with our friends in the union, and I'm a union family. However, I'm also realizing from my perspective, since there is no direct job loss, I can get there. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Martha. You folks may not know, I'm a union family as well. And I do take jobs seriously. I do take pay seriously, but I do think that this is the best for the future of this particular organization. And it is within management's right to try to implement procedures that will save money and preserve jobs at the same time. And that's what I see happening here. Okay, commissioners, we need to be short in our comments. You will have opportunity to discuss this more on Thursday. We have a lot to do because we couldn't get to it last week because we didn't have 3 votes to proceed. So from here on out, I'm going to be very brief and we get slam bam. Thank you, ma'am. Paul, you have 20 seconds.
Okay, great. I just want to clarify that there's the $3.5 million of savings that Greg cited is not labor. A portion of it is, but the largest portion of that is capital investment. So I think it ought to be better framed up that what is the labor savings or the claim labor savings versus the capital investment. It's not a fair analysis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Greg. You can talk about that on Thursday. Sonia Fisher, you have 20 seconds.
Thank you. So this issue is much bigger than this contract. And my concern is overall, as we look at contracting out government services, we need to know what types of jobs we're creating with whatever dollars, if it's ratepayer dollars or it's county general fund or it's passed through from the federal government. I really have a hard time accepting that we can't know what types of jobs, what the pay is, what the benefit package is, what the retirement is with the money that comes from things that we authorize. So Gary, I would really like an answer to that question. This issue is not going to go away.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have 3 head nods to move this forward to the Thursday business meeting agenda.
All right,
Gary.
Chair Smith, this Thursday, all you have on the agenda is consent agenda. So if you like, we can put this item first. And would you like to make this a discussion item off the bat since it appears you all want to discuss it?
Yeah, I think there's 2 people who want to discuss it and that's fine.
All right, so we'll make this a discussion item and the first item on the agenda for this Thursday.
I invite Greg Geis and the attorney to show up.
Yep. So Greg, if you please be in attendance. Thank you. All right, we're still on West consent agenda request. Number 2, approval of an amendment to the contract with Murray Smith for the 2019-55 pump station rehabilitation and upgrades project for the Bolton, River Street, and Clackamas pump stations. This amendment increases the contract by $476,942 for a new total contract value of $2,131,706, funded through Water Environment Services Capital Improvement Funds. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Greg.
Yes, so we've been working with Murray Smith on evaluation, design and engineering on a number of pump stations. These contracts start out with the evaluation piece. You evaluate, again, multiple pump stations. Some might need in the analogy of if there were houses, you would look and say, well, these 2 houses need a roof. This one needs a foundation. This one needs a whole new electrical system. This one needs plumbing. They do that. And then that like with any remodeling project, you learn things along the way and find things that you didn't expect. So that increases the scope a little bit because you need to go down that rabbit hole to solve a potential problem. And then once you get the full understanding of what the scope is and what needs to be done, then you move into the design and engineering phase. And that's essentially what we're doing now. And we do that through amendments so that we have some control and in the process. Just kind of how these things unfold.
Okay, any questions or comments for the presenter on this? Thank you. Seeing none, Gary, what's next?
Item 3, acceptance of an indemnity agreement protecting the county and water environment services from future claims or damages related to the vacation of a portion of Southeast 79th Avenue and infrastructure existing in the affected area. There is no fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Greg.
Sure. So on February 3rd, the board approved vacating a portion of 79th, and there is west sanitary sewer infrastructure beneath that property. And so this is really just a companion piece to that vacation that ensures that West will continue to have access, be able to maintain, replace, repair that infrastructure.
Any questions or comments for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you, Greg.
All right, thank you, Greg. So to recap, Commissioners, item 1, biosolids, will be a discussion item this Thursday. Items 2 and 3 will be consent agenda this Thursday.
And we will vote on the biosolids separately. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Next, we'll do North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Chair, if you will please convene as that board.
Yes, we will now adjourn as the Water Environment Services District Board and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Gary, what's up?
Thank you. Shannon, will you please bring in Mike Bork? Mike is the Director of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. We'll pause just a moment, please. There he is. Hello, Mike. This is a consent agenda request for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board. Approval of a board order authorizing the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District to apply for a Metro Trails grant for development of the Trolley Trail multi-use path along Milwaukee Bay Park. The grant seeks $624,250 in funding with a required 45% match, which is $510,750 funded through system development charges. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Gary, and good morning, board. I don't have much to add to that other than I wanted to make sure that I cleared up a couple of the points that were brought up last week. This $510,000 match, if we were awarded the grant, is already included as part of the Milwaukee Bay Park project. This is just a pull-off part of the overall project, and these matching funds are part of that SDC match that's listed as part of our existing budget that we've been using for the last few years. We realize and recognize that there are a lot of projects that need funding, both along the trolley trail and elsewhere throughout the district, but we have to match what eligibility requirements are given. And in our opinion, this is what we recommend as the project choice for the Metro Trails grant. This is a very competitive grant. We don't know if we'll get it, but if we do, there will still be approvals to bring back to the board for us on how we would achieve that match. And I'll leave it at that if there are any questions.
Mike, how long will it take before you know on this? Do you know that?
My understanding is we'll know this fall.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just want to say that I don't have a quarrel with or a problem with approving the grant application. I appreciate Mike and his staff answering my questions regarding this timely. I apologize for not being at the DAC meeting and being out that week. But I do want to, I think this is an important time to at least state and clear up a few things because there's a lot of misunderstandings out there, some of which, don't have any control over. But I just want to cite that there have been 3 agreements that have been discussed over the last several years. Primarily, the longest standing agreement that needs to be cleaned up, that for some reason there's been very little to no progress on, is the master IGA. As the responsibility and being advised by our legal counsel 3 or more years ago that this had to be updated, and the fact that there has been no traction on it is bothersome. We got a request last year to proceed with the 2-wing contract, which is underway. And we got an agreement and discussed with Milwaukee last summer that both the master IGA and the construction IGA to move forward. Milwaukee approved the construction IGA in January. The Board of County Commissioners approved it. That 2-wing contract is moving forward. There are no delays whatsoever. As Mike stated, that SDCs identified as the potential matching funds for this are already incorporated in the agreements and in the existing, another agreement, the funding agreement. So Milwaukee and the county work together on a new updated funding agreement. And that's one that they are seeking to advance soon or by June 1st. But there's been no traction on the master IGA. There is no legal reason that one is contingent upon another. There is no good reason that the goalpost for working on the master IGA continually to be moved. I think it's imperative that the master IGA be
Paul,
moved
you're
on
getting
quickly.
off topic.
I understand, Chair,
Apply
please don't
for a
interrupt.
grant.
Point taken.
Commissioners, we're
Point
going to move
taken.
forward. Paul,
Point
you made
taken.
this argument 2 and
Chair.
3 times before.
Chair,
The request
Chair.
is for a grant application from Metro for a trolley trail. You're trying to insert Milwaukee Bay Master IGA. There is no place for this, I don't believe. Commissioners, do we have enough votes to move this forward on the consent agenda? We do. Paul,
Chair,
we're done. Paul,
Chair.
No, or I will adjourn.
I will not be in attendance. I will not be in attendance on Thursday to speak at this. So I'm
Then
asking
you
for the
submit
privilege.
something in writing. You have been saying this for a year, Paul. This is a grant application through Metro for the trolley trail. Those people who have wanted the trolley trail have been very patient in us trying to figure out what to do with this. I appreciate your arguments about Milwaukee Bay IGA. In fact, I agree with some of them. However, this is not the place for that. We need to move forward with this. Thank you very much. Commissioner Fisher, your hand is up. Please be brief.
I will be brief. Grover Bornfeld sent a letter to all of us in preparation for a discussion on this item today. Did everybody see that? I just want to see head nods. I see Tootie nodding. I don't see Mark Scholl. I can't see Martha or Paul.
I did receive.
Okay, the big question is, so I'm going to leave this with you, Mike. He brings up a really good point. In January 19th of last year, was that right? Yes, it would have been last year. Sorry. Community engagement is something that needs to happen. And so I just see your head nod. It appears to me we're moving forward with that. If not, I will just want to pull this item for discussion when we do it on Thursday to address Grover's points. But if we're all in alignment and we're moving forward, I just wanted to make sure that's in process.
Yeah, we can do that, but I really hope my commissioners show up for the business meeting.
Well, I don't need to if I have Michael's head nod. So I just wanted to confirm.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith.
All right.
Yeah, Chair Smith, one last. I know that I got a bit interrupted there, but I did want to let you know, yes, I have spoken to Grover more than once and heard from him, and I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and we should at least give him an opportunity to make his case. So
what are you saying? You just don't want this to pass on consent agenda? You want him to come in and make his case?
no, well, he's already made his case to us.
Okay.
If we need to say something during a quick deliberation, we can do it.
Fine. That's fine. You know, any commissioner can say anything on the consent agenda. Mike Wark, be brief, please.
Very brief. Just want to make sure that we're clear. This is Metro Trails funding, and Chair Bornefeld's remarks were regarding the Metro local grant, which is a completely different funding source. We have a fully engaged public process upcoming for the distribution of the Metro local funds.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move ahead on that. Gary, where are we at?
All right, so we're going to keep this on consent agenda for NCPRD, correct, commissioners, this Thursday?
I believe so.
Discussion item.
I believe so.
Consent agenda.
Yeah, consent agenda. Yeah,
Okay.
we see 4 thumbs up on that.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mike. Next, Chair, if you would convene as the Board of County Commissioners again.
I will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board and convene as the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners for the rest of the consent agenda. Gary, please
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Chair Smith. All right, next will be the regular county consent agenda review because that is most urgent. So we'll go through as quickly as we can. Shannon, please bring in Daniel Neibauer. We'll do disaster management first. We'll wait just a second for Daniel. All right, Daniel's here. Daniel is the Interim Director of Disaster Management. Consent agenda request. Approval of fiscal year 21 Urban Area Security Initiative Grant Agreement with the City of Portland for disaster preparedness projects. Total value is $364,215, funded through the Department of Homeland Security. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioners, this is a grant that we get just about every year. And this year we put in for 4 different projects as the county. Those projects are just under 105,000 for planning, training, and exercise project, which will hopefully provide staffing to support those efforts within disaster management. A 911 resiliency project through CCOM for 225,000. And then 2 projects to support our Citizen Corps volunteers, $3,000 for training and $31,750 for equipment to help as they get new volunteers on board to make sure that those folks are equipped and that they have the right equipment to respond as they are called upon.
Any objections or comments for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
All right, Daniel, thank you. Next, Shannon, please bring in Rod Cook for Health, Housing, Human Services items. Wait just a moment, please, Commissioner. All right, Rod Cook is the Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. We got a long one here, Rod. Are you ready? You ready, commissioners? All right, so the first 9 items appears to be the exact same item, but with different organizations. So I'll just read the first one and we'll start there. So first, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with Canby Fire District for reimbursement for access to the electronic patient care records software. Maximum value is $23,904.80. Funded by the Canby Fire District. No county general funds are involved. Rod, can you explain this one and all the other ones coming up related to this, please?
Yes, Clackamas County's EMS strategic plan approved by the Board of County Commissioners in December 2018 identifies equipment standardization as a prioritized need. The EMS strategic plan task force has selected electronic patient care records, that's the EPCRS, as their first item towards standardizing. With this IGA, basically public health will be reimbursed by each of the 9 fire districts that Gary will read off. But basically this is a revenue source that will happen from this point forward.
Any questions or objections to the presenter? Mark Scholl.
Rod, all fire districts are in concurrence with this?
Yeah, well, actually there's 9.
Rod just froze on us.
Sorry, I'm doing that to you, Rod.
You froze him. Go ahead, Rod. Go ahead, Rod. You're
so the answer is yes, and there's actually 9 fire districts involved in this agreement.
Okay.
Okay, no objections going forward, Gary?
So the next 8 are exactly the same, but I'll just read the city and the agency and the number. So next, the same agreement with the City of Lake Oswego for a value of $24,052.04, funded by the City of Lake Oswego. Any concerns or questions?
Commissioner Fisher, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. So Rod, this issue has, as far as patient privacy and HIPAA and all of those issues, is there any opposition to where we're moving forward? Is there pretty much consensus that this software and the sharing of the medical records is all good? Or are there any concerns about it?
I have
not. Good question.
Yeah, I have heard no opposition to this moving forward. And we have a committee that works with county council to make sure that all the HIPAA laws are covered whenever we get into client records.
Okay, would you just do me a favor before Thursday and just double check just to make sure? Because if there is, then I just want to evaluate that. And you have to weigh the privacy with moving forward in a streamlined way. And it's not always easy questions or answers. So thank you.
Good question, Commissioner Fisher. Okay, no objections to that moving forward, Gary?
Item 3, same topic. This one with Clackamas Fire District number 1 for a value of $109,322.40, funded by the Clackamas County Fire District number 1.
Any objections, commissioners? Seeing none, go ahead.
Number 4, same item. This one for Colton Fire District for a value of $2,552.48, funded by Colton Fire District.
Any objection? Seeing none.
Item 5, same agreement. This one with Gladstone Fire District for the amount of $13,191.95, funded by the Gladstone Fire District.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Next, item 6, same agreement. This one with Hoodland Fire District for the amount of $7,829.20, funded through the Hoodland Fire District.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Number 7, same agreement. This one with Molalla Fire District for the amount of $27,610.76, funded through the Molalla Fire District.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Number 8, same agreement. This one with the Sandy Fire Department for the amount of $24,542.92, funded through the Sandy Fire District.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Number 9, same and last agreement. This one with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue for the amount of $15,960, funded through Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Very good. All right. New topic now. Number 10, approval of a revenue professional services agreement with Health Share of Oregon for a point of contact provider services. Contract not to exceed $1,600,000. Funding is provided by the Health Share of Oregon for fee for services. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, our public health provides screening and treatment for tuberculosis control, sexually transmitted infections, and immunization administration and tracking to include COVID. The Tri-Counties have worked with Health Share of Oregon to receive reimbursement for services provided to Health Share members enrolled in Oregon Health Plan. Health Share has agreed to pay retroactively to January 1st, 2022. Over the term of the agreement, the collective billings for the Tri-Counties cannot exceed 1.6 million contract value. That's where you get the 1.6 top.
Any questions or objections? Seeing none.
Item 11, approval of an amendment to a federal subrecipient grant agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives for emergency shelter services. The amendment adds $25,535.50 for a new contract, total value of $50,056.50. Funding through the Federal Department of Homeland Security Emergency Food and Shelter Program. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rob.
Yes, as the administrator said, approval for a subrecipient to continue to provide emergency shelter bed night services to serve unhoused individuals and families in Clackamas County and connect these individuals and families with permanent housing and other positive exit destinations.
Any objections or questions? Seeing none.
Item 12, approval of an amendment to a federal subrecipient grant agreement with Clackamas Women's Services. The amendment adds $25,535.50 for a new total contract value of $108,362.50. Funding through the Emergency Food and Shelter Program funds for emergency shelter services. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, Clackamas Women's Services will provide emergency shelter bed night services to serve unhoused individuals and families in Clackamas County who are survivors of domestic violence and connect these individuals and families with permanent housing and other positive exit destinations with these funds.
Any objections or questions for the presenter? Seeing none, go ahead.
13, approval of an amendment to a grant agreement with Impact Northwest for Shelter Plus Care Services. This amendment adds $63,310.68 for a new total value of $363,310.68. Funding is through county general funds, which has already been budgeted. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this contract would provide agency funds to continue to provide shelter care plus supportive services to hard to serve homeless individuals with disabilities and their families.
Any objections or questions for the presenter? Seeing none, go ahead.
14, approval of an amendment to a contract with Project Quest, doing business as Quest Center for Integrative Health for WISH program services. The amendment adds $45,000 to the contract, increasing the maximum contract value to $135,000. The contract is funded with behavioral health fund balance. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, and this program is an integrated medical and behavioral health program designed to treat chronic pain through the use of non-opioid interventions. The program integrates acupuncture, yoga, mental health, medication management, treatment for substance use disorder, nutrition, and peer support in a community setting.
Wow. Rod, what does WISH stand for? WISH?
Wellness, integrity, and sustainable health plan management.
Wow, that's a pretty good acronym. Thank you. Any questions or objections to this moving forward? Go ahead.
15, approval of an amendment to a sub-recipient grant agreement with CODA Inc. for Housing Assistance Program Services. The amendment extends the term of the agreement and increased the value of the agreement by $106,866.50 for a new maximum contract value of $706,639.03. The agreement is funded by federal and state funds provided by the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this contract will provide housing assistance and services for Clackamas County residents in alcohol and drug recovery to assist them in becoming self-sufficient and obtaining permanent housing placements.
Any objections or questions for the presenter? Seeing none.
16, approval of a revenue grant agreement from the Oregon Department of Education, Early Learning Division for Healthy Families, Oregon. The grant agreement has a maximum value of $1,969,591.26. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, the Children, Family, and Community Connections Division receives this revenue contract, and then it subcontracts out to a local nonprofit, currently the Clackamas County Children's Commission, to deliver Healthy Families Oregon program services to families in the region.
Any objections or questions? Seeing none.
17, approval of a revenue grant agreement from the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs to expand and enhance outreach and services to Oregon veterans. Grant award is $74,871, funded through the State of Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this agreement will expand and enhance outreach to Clackamas County veterans who face barriers to employment by funding a limited term veterans job development specialist. We're looking for somebody bilingual if we can, who will assist participants in mental health care, navigation services, and streamline employment pathways.
Any objections to this? Seeing none.
18, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental grant revenue agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, employment and training services. This amendment reduces the agreement by $10,617.85. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this program is also with Clackamas County Children, Family, and Community Connections through its workforce program. SNAP participants to deliver employment training and job placement, and provides individual case management to guide, motivate, and support job seekers by continually assessing their needs and challenges, identifying resources, and advising on career and training opportunities. And like the administrator said, this is actually a reduction due to just the number of people that were served last year or this year.
Okay. That answers my question. Any objections going forward? Seeing none.
19, approval of a sub-recipient grant agreement with Clackamas County Children's Commission to provide healthy family program services to families in Clackamas County. The grant agreement is fully funded by the Oregon Department of Education and has a maximum contract value of $1,978,864. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this is what we talked about earlier with the Healthy Start. It's the piece that we outsource with that state funding, but it's the Clackamas County Children's Commission. They'll continue to provide healthy family home visiting services designed to increase the strength and stability of high-risk families prenatally through their child's third birthday, and in some cases include a transition period.
Any objections or questions for the presenter? Seeing none.
All right, that is Health, Housing, Human Services. Thank you, Rod, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
And please bring in Dan Johnson. We'll do Transportation and Development next. Wait just a moment, please, commissioners. All right, Dan Johnson is the Director of Transportation and Development. These are Transportation and Development consent agenda requests. 1, approval of a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of rights-of-way, easements, and fee property for the Canby-Markham Highway, Alone Elder Road intersection improvements project, and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions. The right-of-way budget for the project is $151,706 and is included within the $1,043,579 total project budget. This is funded through county road funds, community road fund, and transportation system development charges. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you so much. Chair and commissioners, we are here to kind of share with you a project we're looking to construct on South Canby-Markham Highway and South Lone Elder Road. There's a detailed description of the project in your packet, but essentially the project will widen and reconstruct the intersection and add a northbound left turn lane, improving the service and safety of the intersection. In order to construct the improvements as designed, additional right-of-way and easements will be required. We are expecting an impact of 5 abutting properties along the project. The resolution directs department staff to proceed with good faith negotiations for the acquisition of needed properties and utilize the expertise of authorized real estate appraisers and other experts to assist in the acquisition process. The resolution further requires the director of the department to notify the board if the exercise of power of eminent domain is necessary. As we've discussed with many projects, this is the first step. This agreement is not authorizing eminent domain. Any such action will come back to the board for future discussion and consideration. It's simply the first step in authorizing good faith negotiations for a capital project. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Any objections to moving forward? Seeing none.
Item 2, approval of a supplemental budget agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Courtney Avenue Complete Street River Road Oregon 99E project. Overall project cost estimate is $5,661,420, funded through Metro, Federal Capital Grant Funds via Regional Flexible Funds Allocation Grant, State House Bill 2017, and County Road Funds. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you so much. Clackamas County obtained a federal flexible fund allocation grant from Metro to construct improvements to Courtney Avenue from River Road to Oregon 99E. The improvements include a 6-foot wide separated sidewalk on both sides of Courtney Avenue, 8-foot wide buffer bike lanes, intermittent rain gardens for stormwater management, and street and pedestrian lighting, curb ramps, and crosswalk enhancements. The supplemental project agreement commits both Clackamas County to fully fund the county share of the project and ODOT to fully fund the state share of the project. I want to affirm to the board, these dollars have been budgeted and are available and can be available as required by the agreement and guaranteed as soon as the agreement is signed.
Any questions? Objections? Commissioner Fisher.
Quick question, Dan. So this area is around the area where the original Oglow Bridge was proposed. Is that right? Am I getting my areas correct?
Roughly. I probably would have to give you a project map to identify exactly where it's at.
Okay, my question is there any talk at all of that other project moving forward since there's been a change of jurisdictional leadership?
At this time, no, but that is a discussion we plan to have with the Board of County Commissioners as we advance the dialogue around our long-range work program and adjusting some of those funds to other projects if necessary, or advancing that project if necessary. So.
Okay, hey, just thank you for that update. Appreciate
no problem.
See no objections to this moving forward. Go ahead.
Item 3, acceptance of an indemnity agreement protecting the county and water environment services from future claims or damages related to the vacation of a portion of Southeast 79th Avenue and infrastructure existing in the affected area. There's no fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. You just discussed this meeting as the West Board. Now you're meeting as the County Board for the same item. Dan, go ahead.
I'm not sure what I add to that, Gary. That's exactly it. Essentially, there are 2 signatories from the public side. One is the county and one is Water Environment Services. It's the same circumstances that Greg shared with you earlier in the meeting.
And we approve that as well, correct, Gary Schmidt?
Yes.
Thank you. Any objections to this going forward? Seeing none, thank you.
4, approval of a contract with Kittleson and Associates for the Southeast Johnson Creek Boulevard, 79th Place, 82nd Avenue project. Contract total is $534,533.31, funded through Arts Funds, Community Road Fund, condition of approval permit, Clackamas County Development Agency, and County Road Funds. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you so much. The project's total estimate is about $2.4 million, with arts funding being about 1.46. Gary already identified the other funding sources. These are drastically needed improvements done around Johnson Creek Boulevard and 79th along that 82nd Avenue corridor as well. The project was advertised in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules on August 16th. There were 2 proposals that were open on September 14th. County staff reviewed those proposals, felt that Kittleson Associates was the most qualified to perform this action on this particular project, and essentially from that point developed fees associated and negotiated and finalized those fees that are before you today for the contract. One thing I'll share with you, because I'm assuming you'd ask this question, it's a total project, $2.4 million project. This is about a $500,000 contract. I want to make sure you understand why that's a little bit larger than most of the contracts we do. There are federal dollars associated with this, which require additional analysis. We are also having this particular consultant do our right-of-way service acquisition in this particular area due to the number of projects that we currently have in process right now. So with that, I'm happy to answer your questions you might have.
Any questions? Any objections to this? Mark, are you okay? Moving forward, thank you very much, Dan, for this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So commissioners, all of these consent agenda requests will go on this Thursday's business meeting agenda. Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. All right, back to the regular issues list. Shannon, can we do advisory board and commission appointment next, please? And you're on mute, Shannon. You're still on mute, Shannon.
Sorry, I'm working it out. We got through that so fast, I wasn't prepared. I apologize.
Sorry,
All
I'm
right,
out of order, Shannon. Sorry.
That's all right. First up is the one we have today is the Solid Waste Commission. It's staffed by the Department of Transportation and Development. They currently have one opening on their commission due to the resignation of a member representing the collection service franchise holders. The recommendation for the new industry member is Carlton Paulmeyer. And this is one where the Clackamas County Refuse and Recycling Association nominates the person to represent them, and then it comes to you for the nod. So,
okay, commissioners, I will move for approval for, what was his name again? I'm sorry.
Carlton Paulmeyer.
Carlton Paulmeyer for appointment to the Solid Waste Commission. Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Thank you very much. Any objections? Shannon, would you please call a poll?
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Stoll?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, commissioners, you have 6 items left and you have 30 minutes left for discussion. I'm saving the last 15 minutes for your commissioner communications. So here's the order we'll do this. And if we don't finish, we'll post them to next week. So it will be, let's see, Courthouse, and then I-205 tolling, and then Land Bank Authority, and then Board Town Halls, and then Clackamas Broadband Exchange, and then Supportive Housing Services Financial Update. That's the order. So that's based on the timeliness of what has to happen today. So next will be Courthouse Master Funding Agreement. Shannon, would you please bring in Nate Boderman and Gary Barth? Wait just a moment, please, commissioners. All right, there's Nate, there's Gary. Nate's from County Counsel's office. Gary is the Courthouse Project Manager. There's a lengthy memo in your packet. And Nate and Gary, please give a quick update to the board.
All right, thank you, Gary. Good morning, commissioners. The purpose of the item this morning is to brief you on the status of the state funding associated with the courthouse replacement project and to answer any questions that you might have about the draft master funding agreement that was provided to you last week. All of this is related to the state's commitment to fund roughly 50% of the cost to replace the new county court, or to replace the existing county courthouse. As I explained in the materials provided, the master funding agreement is really a high-level agreement that establishes the relationship between the parties throughout the duration of the courthouse project. And this is a project, as you know, that's been ongoing for several years. We formally entered into an agreement with the state over 3 years ago, and this project will continue for another 3 years at least to get us through construction. So that's the intent of the master funding agreement, is that it's a durable agreement that will govern our relationship over this term. The agreement describes many of the general rights and obligations that the parties will take on with respect to the state provided funding. And the intent is then that this master funding agreement will be supplemented with more detailed phase funding agreements that really provide the detail and the substance around the amount of funding that's provided at each phase and the deliverables associated with those individual phases of funding. So along those lines, you do have the draft master funding agreement before you today, and this contains language that has been deemed acceptable by project staff from both the county and the state. And so we're providing it to you for your review and comment. In the not too distant future, we will be coming back to you with detailed phase funding agreements that will specifically provide for the expenditure plans for the $94.5 million in funding that was recently authorized by the state legislature, as well as the design and construction schedule that will be associated with the county courthouse project, all of which is subject to reimbursement by the state. Just a couple highlights included in the draft master funding agreement. State funding is provided through the sale of bonds and subject to the requirements of the OCCCIF program. The agreement incorporates specific requirements associated with such funding, which means that we need state sign off and Chief Justice sign off for this project, and clarification that the state funding may only be used for approved capital expenditures. As I alluded to previously, the agreements also make clear that the state and county are partners in this project and that the state is entitled to attend meetings and make recommendations through the process as appropriate. And finally, I want to point out that this agreement specifically prohibits the state from taking occupancy of the building in the event that the state fails to pay the amounts owed to the county under the agreement. And in particular, the substantial milestone payment that will be due at the time the building is finally ready to be occupied, which is an amount that we anticipate today to be about $90 million coming from the state, all in one lump sum. So to quickly wrap up my initial comments here, I noted to you in the materials that I provided that the master funding agreement will be more or less replacing the existing agreement that was entered into between the county and the state about 3 years ago. So we're calling this one the Amended and Restated Master Funding Agreement because the agreement really reflects changes and approach brought about by the public-private partnership approach. And most of the terms appearing in the agreement before you are already in place as a result of the existing master funding agreement that the county signed 3 years ago. Also, the amended agreement's a prerequisite to obtaining the necessary legislative authorization to receive the $94.5 million from the state. And while the budget allocation for the full amount was approved last legislative session, you'll recall that a limitation of $1 was imposed on the appropriation and expenditure of those funds until this funding agreement could be finalized. So that's what we're doing here. At least hoping to get your sign off here on today.
Nate, I have one question.
Yeah.
Does this still have to be approved by this session's Ways and Means committees?
That's correct. And so, yeah, a report was submitted to the budget, but there was a specific requirement that the master funding agreement be provided.
Okay. And we approved that today. It's signed, and then you can move forward then?
What we're asking today is for placement on the consent agenda or another means to approve on this week's business meeting agenda. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the point of clarification. Commissioners, do we have any comments or questions for the presenters? Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of stuff packed on the agenda today and probably more stuff on the agenda than we actually have time to give it fair discussion. And I'm sure that I will not be able to complete my comments, so I won't even begin them. I will just simply abstain because I apparently don't have ample time to speak on such a complicated matter. I will refer part of my concerns that have not yet been addressed since the May 5th meeting of last year still remain unanswered. And I would like to get answers to those questions.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes. Are we still on track next month to receive the preliminary design from the two remaining contractors? Gary Barth.
Yes, the technical and financial submittals from the final proposers are due in April.
But it's also contingent and subject to us obtaining funding from the state, correct, Gary Barth?
Correct.
Thank you very much for that point of clarification. Okay, any other comments from commissioners? See no objection to this moving forward to Thursday's consent agenda? Okay, thank you very much, Gary Barth and Nate Borderman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, commissioners will discuss the I-205 toll program amendments. Shannon, please bring in Dan Johnson and Jamie Stasny. All right, Dan, go ahead.
Great, thank you so much. In the interest of time, I'm going to keep my talking points brief. You have heard from Commissioner Shull and Commissioner Savas a discussion around amendments to the Regional Transportation Plan and the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, known as Mtip, to continue work on the I-205 tolling program. We are here today. I'm joined by Jamie Stasny from our office, basically to briefly discuss process, concepts that we're looking to get regional support on, and then last but not least, kind of what next steps might be. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and we'll go from there.
Good morning, Smith, Commissioner, Administrator Schmidt. Good to see you all again. As Dan said, we're here to provide an update on the RTP and Mtip amendments process for ODOT's proposed I-205 toll program. This isn't the first time we've been here talking with you about this. Since the last update, there have been a lot of regional meetings and conversations about this topic. MPAC has met, TPAC has met, JPAC has met, and the OTC have all met since we talked last time. So a lot of very quickly moving developments to these proposals. When last MPAC met, we had Commissioner Shull representing the county there. There was a lot of passionate comments from elected leaders from around the region, voicing a lot of concerns about the current proposal and asking a lot of questions that remain unanswered. There was a formal request to delay the decision to allow more time to answer these questions. TPAC then met, where we have staff represented by Karen Burig. They made a formal motion requesting that JPAC delay the vote to give them time to do their job as TPAC, to review the materials, which they received the evening before at 5:30 p.m., and actually provide some updates and edits to the proposed amendments to address these regional concerns that have been voiced at all of these meetings. On February 17th, JPAC met. Chair Craddock granted TPAC's request to delay the decision. So now the decision has been delayed at JPAC until March. And they had a really good conversation asking all of the JPAC members to raise the concerns that they would like to see addressed in these amendments. Commissioner Paul Savas presented a list of concerns that he would like to see addressed, which are consistent with your values and outcomes and the communications you've been sharing with the OTC. Also, other regional partners really come together. There's a lot of alignment about the concerns of moving forward with this program at this time. So those were voiced as well. And there was a lot of consistency, I would say, among those comments coming from all different places in the region. So I wanted to share with you that the edits per direction from JPAC will be focused around addressing the following concerns. First is a lack of consistency and really a lack of clarity around how the I-205 toll program will connect to the regional mobility pricing program or the regional toll program. So the amendments that are coming forward right now are about the I-205 toll program, but there's a lot of question about how it will fold into that broader program. And there's not a lot of answers there. Second, there's concerns about ODOT's plan to toll 205 first without having any assurances that the regional tolling program will be approved and implemented. Third, a lack of local and regional input and decision-making authority and needing more opportunity for local, especially those locally impacted jurisdictions, to be involved in the decision-making for this process. There is support for phase 1A of the I-205 capital project to remain on schedule. And there's a lack of financial transparency and a need for that. So your county staff will be working with our cities of Clackamas County, as well as our other regional partners, to develop a cohesive set of amendments to these proposed amendments, or edits to the proposed amendments, that will address these concerns. And then we will return to you prior to the votes at JPACT and Impact to give you updates on those items. Again, JPACT will be voting March 17th, Impact March 23rd, and the Metro Council on April 14th. I have just one more quick update for you, and then I'm happy to take questions. I wanted to point out that, as you all know, phase 1A of the capital improvements project, the Abernathy Bridge phase 1A is already out to bid, and it's set to go to construction this June, which is very exciting. It's a very important project that you've voiced support for many years. I wanted to call your attention to a letter in the packet that came from the OTC to JPACT. In that letter, the Oregon Transportation Commission states that if JPACT does not approve and Metro Council does not approve these proposed amendments by the end of March, ODOT will not move forward with construction of phase 1A of the capital project this year because they will miss the end-water work window. I wanted to make sure you were aware of that because you as a board have been very clear of the importance of keeping that project on schedule. So I wanted to flag that for you, let you know that that assertion has been made by the OTC. I will also just share there has been a sense in conversation among the region that it is so critical that we get this toll program right, that potentially having a delay in the construction of phase 1A is worth taking the time to do this right. I would say that's just general sense comments that we have heard from other regional partners, but I wanted to share that here with you today so you could hear from me, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. Thank you.
So I'm going to quickly summarize, Jamie. First of all, you presented us today with conceptual amendments that you will, it says a memo to follow. And then we will have a written form of what you presented. And you're asking us to go ahead with the memo writing campaign. And then secondly, are we willing to forego construction on the Abernathy Bridge because of the March date, because the memo will not come soon enough and be voted on in 3 different jurisdictions until March and April? Is that what you're asking us? Is this a decision point for us, Dan and Jamie?
We are here today to provide you with an update and let you know what's going on because this is all evolving so quickly. We are not asking for direction today, but we'll be back in front of you before those votes to seek your direction. So it's more of sharing information, making sure you're aware of timeframes, and then we'll be back in front of you to ask for you to give direction to your JPACT and MPACT members before those votes. And we will share with you at that time the proposed amendment edits that I was talking about that your staff and other regional staff will be providing through the TPAC process.
And then when did that letter from the OTC come stating that construction must begin in March? When did that come through?
It came addressed to JPACT at their last meeting. It came in the packet. I believe it's dated the 16th of February.
Okay. That's about a week ago. Okay. Commissioner Savas, your hand is up.
Yeah, Gary Schmidt circulated that letter on February 16th to all of us. So you all should have it in your inbox. I would just say that just to build on this a little bit, really what ODOT is simply saying here, apparently, appears as though we're really poised to simplify this, is that they really want us to authorize them really a blank check to proceed with the tolling and to do all these things without really answering some critical questions that all the jurisdictions are asking, including the public. I think that's really problematic. So there's really a lack of either answers and transparency about this process. I think that is extremely concerning. Lastly, I think the rates of what the tolling ought to be or where it will be has also been confusing. I know there was discussion at a recent meeting about $2 a toll. Well, that's relatively true that the toll could be approximately $2, but that's only for one point or one section of the 7-mile section. So there will be multiple, more than one, areas in which a toll will be incurred, and it could easily exceed or double or triple or exceed the $2 or up to and beyond $10 for one trip, one way along I-205 in that 7-mile section. So people need to be aware of that. And I think they need to be transparent about that. And we're just hoping that we get some traction. The last thing I will say is that the NEPA study, one of the options or alternatives in the NEPA study is no build, meaning no build tolling, not no build the project. And if that is true, and we're honoring that no build option, it seems disingenuous to authorize them to build the tolling gantries and all the hardware prior to the completion of the NEPA study. Thank you.
Is that true, Dan? Jamie?
I'll chime in and just say that the proposal right now is $28 million. That's what these amendments would grant them. That $28 million will buy them the rest of the NEPA process, as well as, which is about $20 million. And the other $8 million would go toward preliminary design of the gantries. One of the ideas or concepts for an amendment would be to edit the Mtip and basically just allow ODOT to move forward with the NEPA process to get the answers to the questions without moving forward with the design of the gantries for a system that isn't approved.
Okay, commissioners, questions or comments moving forward on this? What is our, is this just information only today, Gary?
Yeah, it's just information today. We're just looking to come forward, share those concepts with you. We're going to bring back specific language at a future meeting for you to consider. We're available if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you have questions you need answered, please let us know. As Jamie did so eloquently, she highlighted kind of the concepts that are going around right now. There will be specific language around that we will be bringing to your attention so that you can advise our JPAC and MPAC reps to move forward on a vote. So more information to come.
And when do you think that will be here for us to review?
It's coming soon.
I mean, because the clock, evidently, according to the OTC, the clock is ticking. According to the OTC.
It is.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Land Bank Authority update. Shannon, please bring in Sarah Ekman and Nate Boderman. There's a memo in your packet, commissioners, on this item. Wait just a second, please. Right, there's Nate. Just one moment for Sarah. All right, Nate, we're out of time. Nate, go ahead. Go for it.
Well, give me just a second because Sarah was supposed to be taking the lead on this presentation and provide color commentary for myself. Can we jump to another item?
What's Sarah's issue?
I am, well, she's in transit between the attendees and the panelists.
Stuck in cyber traffic, huh?
Yes, it appears that she has, oh, there she is. We're going to try again. Hey.
All right, Sarah, please go ahead.
I will, thanks. Sorry, not sure what happened there. I was watching and saying, no, I'm here. Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners, Administrator Schmidt. We are here today to talk about the Land Bank Authority. And this is a topic that has been on the county's plan for quite a while. It's been on pause due to COVID. And so wanted to bring it back before you today because we're at the point in time when if we are going to move forward with it, we need to do so in the near future. So in 2018, this project began. Business and Community Services, the Economic Development Division approved the steps to form the state's first land bank authority. This was done so after House Bill 2724 passed in 2015. That's since been codified in ORS 465.603. This allowed for the formation of land banks and authorized local governments to create by ordinance or resolution a land bank authority as a municipal corporation. The purpose of the land bank would be to acquire, rehabilitate, and reposition vacant and perceived to be contaminated lands inside our urban growth boundaries so they can become available and viable employment lands or housing and open spaces in the county. As you know, we're challenged by a lack of employment lands, and we have a critical shortage of affordable housing. One of the benefits of land bank is it enjoys significant protection from liability for pre-existing contamination. Once sites are rehabilitated, they can serve, as I mentioned, for a variety of reasons. A lot of work has been done on this in the past. When COVID happened, we put it on pause. Nathan Boderman has been our county counsel on this project, and so he's here today, both for that historical knowledge and as a subject matter expert in the legal elements of the land bank. As I mentioned, we have done a lot of work with staff on this and went so far as to recruit for a board of directors for the land bank. That work happened right at the end of 2019. And so when 2020 rolled around, we paused because our small economic development team needed to be able to shift and focus on supporting the business community impacted by COVID. Let's see here. In terms of funding, we do have $300,000 we secured from the state of Oregon through their brownfield redevelopment program. That is in the form of a forgivable loan that does have some deliverables that we need to make good on if we are to not have to pay those funds back. So that's one of the reasons that we have a timing issue with that. They did allow us graciously to extend our agreement with them, but in order to utilize those funds, we now need to begin work, which is why we're here today, given that it's been some time since the land bank was in front of the board for your review and consideration. I know we're short on time. I have a lot of info, but I thought it might be best to answer your questions so we can have a bit of a conversation.
So Sarah, you say that we have $300,000 available to us in the form of a loan that might be forgivable or might not be forgivable depending on the deliverables. What can we do for $300,000?
It's a great question. So in terms of initial funding, what we have identified at this point is $300 from the state as well as another $300 from lottery dollars. It's estimated for the first 3 years of the land bank program, annual operating costs would be in the $400,000 range. So with those funds right now, we would be able to start the land bank, but we do have more funding that we need to find and secure. The forgivable loan, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Talk about the forgivable loan.
So from the state, they have some very specific objectives that we know we can meet if we move forward with the project. And I can tell you, so one is providing support to other counties and municipalities who are seeking to establish their own land banks. And then we have an annual report requirement for the first 2 years. And so as those check boxes are made, we advance, more and more of the loan until it's completely forgiven.
So you say we have $300,000 available from lottery funds, the Clackamas County lottery funds?
That is correct.
Okay, but this board is having an upcoming work session on reviewing lottery funds. So I don't know how that we can procure lottery funds, matching funds to the land bank when we haven't made a decision on what programs we're going to fund with lottery funds. But you didn't answer my question in that what does $300,000 buy us? Price of real estate sky high. The price of real estate that needs fixed is really sky high. And I don't know that we even have staff to do this. I'm really concerned, commissioners, about moving ahead with the program that we can't fund with all the other needs and pressures that are on us right now. What, Sarah?
I was just in response to your question, it's the operational dollars to fund the establishment of the program. It's not property acquisition dollars, the $300,000. So what that buys us is our staff, basically, and our operating costs.
So we're going to pay staff to do the operations, but yet we're really not going to acquire anything. So it's just keeping staff working. That even makes less sense to me. But we have some hands up. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, I see by your paperwork, you added 1.5 staff and human resources to cover this, but in the future, are you looking at contracting out at additional expense to make this land bank work? I mean,
yes.
How expensive is this going to be for the county?
The entity is intended to be a separate legal entity from the county after the first 3 years. We are estimating $400,000 a year for operational costs the first 3 years. The 1.5 FTE positions are established. They were never filled, so they are not filled at this point. So once it gets going, you know, there is a lot of funding that needs to be secured in order to acquire properties. And as you stated, that's a large ticket item.
Yeah, this is kind of scary to me. Thank you.
Gary's hands up, then I'll go to Martha Schrader.
Thank you, commissioners. Quickly, Commissioner Shull, we have not hired that staff yet. The 1.5 staff, we were ready to hire them, but we paused. So no staff's been hired for this. Commissioners, back in 2015, when this first came from the state legislature, it seemed amazing. It seemed to align with our goals as a county. And that's why the prior boards pursued this effort. And the whole world has changed since then. The whole world has changed. And so my advice to you, commissioners, one, thank to all the staff who worked so hard on this prior to today and the prior boards. I also do not recommend moving forward on this. Either kill it entirely or just take a pause, but do not move forward. This is not a mandated service of county governments. We don't have the staff or the resources to move forward. So I'm just offering to you to please don't go forward. I'm sorry to say. Thank you for listening.
I would agree with Gary on this. Martha Schrader, you're in the queue.
Yeah, I don't see how we can go forward, but I will have to express my profound disappointment. We used to have one of the best economic development divisions in the state. And COVID and loss of staff has, even though you've done great work funneling dollars to the local chambers for the businesses, that was absolutely stellar work, and helping the smaller businesses through MESO. I think that we can pause, but I, for one, looking at it on a long-term basis, don't want to let it completely die. So as soon as we figure out some of the lottery dollars and where they've been going, particularly to memberships that may not be as pertinent anymore to what we were doing previously, I'd like to reserve the opportunity at a later date to take a second look at this. But I agree with Gary. I'm willing to accept his advice on this.
Thank you, Martha. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I agree with Martha actually on this. I'd rather see us hit the pause button for a couple of reasons. Number one, we need to understand it. I think I do, but I think we all need to have a better understanding of how these things and mitigation efforts will be funded in the future. And my understanding was that be done through the state and or with a combination of lottery dollars. It makes reasonable sense to me that there will be some staff time to stand up the organization of a land bank authority. It's an entity. It's an entity that doesn't exist, but it's proposed to exist. So it can't happen without some staff time. But being that there is indeed a somewhat of a staffing crisis that we're experiencing here at the county, we can't even handle what we do have in front of us. I think hitting the pause button is a reasonable thing to do until such time that we have the staff. I don't want to kill it unless we understand it fully. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Yeah, I do think it's important that we understand this. And I guess, Gary, I would like to understand more the basis for your recommendation. We know that employment lands are scarce in Clackamas County, and we know that we need to promote economic development and especially post-COVID. So I'm just not sure what's changed. If anything, it would seem to me that cleaning up contaminated land and doing that in a way that is systematic and would be a good thing, that is still a priority. But what am I missing? Besides all the staffing stuff, which Martha and Paul, that is very persuasive. I mean, I get that. I'm all hearing you, but I'm not understanding the substance of it, why it was a good idea before and why it's not now.
Yes, so the reason I'm making my recommendation on this is twofold. First, of all the counties in Oregon, we are the only one that is going forward on this. So you have to ask, are we trailblazers or are we not? Why are we going forward and no other county is? I'd love for you to talk about that at AOC with your colleagues. Why are you not going forward and why are we? It's okay for us to be trailblazers, of course, but why are we the only county moving forward on this? Second, I'm looking at the larger picture of the county organization regarding the funding streams. I'm about to present to you a proposed budget that streamlines county government, and I'm still in formulation with that with directors. So I can't in good conscience recommend you add something new, and I'm going to be presenting to you things we should stop doing because we simply don't have the resources, whether they're general fund property taxes or not. We don't have the resources we once had as an organization. Therefore, let's only do what's required by law, what's most essential, life and safety, public safety, human services. Let's focus on those things now. And then, yes, we can pause and come back to you in a year or so with how we can bring this back potentially. Thank you.
I would agree with that. Let's just wait and see. If the state wants to bring us a bunch of money for mitigation efforts on these questionable lands and then being able to find it, there's a reason why the other counties are doing it. And I suspect it's a funding issue. We don't even have enough lottery dollars to even play with this. So let's just pause on this. I am okay with that. And if something happens, if it gets revitalized in a year from now, we can always go back and pick it up. Sarah, thank you for your presentation, and Nate both. Is that
Chair,
okay, commissioners?
Yeah, I have my hand up, Chair.
I don't see your hand, Martha. I'm sorry.
Why it doesn't show, but that's all right.
Okay.
Just the way it goes. Maybe it's internet, cyberspace. Yeah, I'm okay pausing this, but I really am not willing long-term to let it go. I think Gary's right, and I'm trying to help this budget along. But as the economy recovers, so will the lottery dollar funding. So I would say that at some future date, there could certainly be enough dollars, not only to keep this, but operationalize it. But economic development has lost significant talent in staffing. They just don't have the bandwidth right now. And that's why, and as I said, we're having that meeting looking at where some of the lottery dollars are going, and to organizations that perhaps we should be putting it elsewhere with more direction from us for economic development. So I think that conversation is essential for this.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. And we've had discussions about developing an economic development sector part of the county that we haven't had in several years. When I was a commissioner last time around, we had quite a robust economic development arm of BCS, and that is no longer here. And I think that discussion needs to come first if we're going to develop that. And then let me finish. And then that entity or whatever it's going to look like, we don't know that yet, can go out and pursue things, maybe like a land bank a year from now. I don't see any monies coming in for a year on the land bank to Clackamas County that's even begin to be affordable. I mean, we're seeking money for housing and sheltering.
Yeah.
No. You understand that. So let's just pause on the land bank for a year. I am open-minded to bringing it back when economic conditions improve.
Okay. Judy, one last question to Gary. When are we going to see the report from the consultant that BCS pulled together?
Very soon, commissioners. You'll see it soon from me. I'll be in touch.
Okay. I've been waiting on that.
It's highly confidential, commissioners. That's why you've not seen it yet.
Okay. No pressure, just saying.
Thank you. So Sarah, I recommend you either, Nate, ask the state if they would allow us a year extension, or we need to return the funds to the state. How's that?
I'll do. Yeah, I'll reach out to them today.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you, Sarah and Nate. Thank you, commissioners. All right. So to staff listening, I apologize. I'm going to bump the 3 remaining items to next week, because in my opinion, it can wait. And if you disagree with me, staff, you need to tell me offline. So we'll push the broadband exchange ARPA funds to next week, the supportive housing services financial update to next week, the board town hall topics to next week, which may mean we may have to postpone, commissioners, your town hall to April instead of March, but we'll come back to you next week to discuss that. And the 10 minutes left, you have commissioner communications. I need to depart, commissioners, for another engagement. So Nancy Bush will finish the meeting with you. So Nancy, go ahead, and thank you, commissioners.
Welcome, Nancy Bush. We will now go to commissioner communication. Who wants to go first?
Well, I will, Chair. And I just want to say that the National Association of Counties Conference was stellar as usual. Commissioner Fisher and I have been meeting on Monday to review what we've all learned, to make a presentation to the rest of the board. And I had an opportunity to chair the Economic Community Development Workforce Committee, and that was great, and give the report in front of the entire board of the National Association of Counties. So it was very well attended. People were happy to see one another. And I have all kinds of articles from everything from emergency management to childcare to economic development that I will share with everyone, as I know Commissioner Fisher will as well. So thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. I really look forward to that presentation. I think maybe, Nancy, we need to carve out some extra time for presentations about what our two commissioners have brought home from NACO. I think that would be valuable information. So what, Commissioner Scholl, you're up next.
Yes, I'll be very quick. Last Thursday, we had the first meeting with our new Emergency Preparedness Council. I was very impressed with the people on the council, and I enjoyed discussing with them some ideas for their operational planning and how they're going to move ahead. And I really look forward to great things out of that Emergency Preparedness Council. And for you people on the council, thank you very much for what you're going to do for the county.
Yes, Commissioner Scholl, I think we all attended that, and I was very pleased. The level of expertise and participation exceeded my expectations. I am thrilled to death on that. Commissioner Fisher, you're shaking your head. So with that up, you go ahead.
Ditto.
Yeah, you're next.
I was like, wow, that was, and it was fun for us. I was a fly on the wall listening and incredibly impressed with members of our community. And I really think that is how it's going to be effective when we really organize across the county. This is very exciting. But other than that, Commissioner Scholl and Commissioner Schrader said everything that I cared to say, so I will save us the time.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, please find my comments constructive. We had a lot on the agenda for today, and Gary rightfully kicked 3 of them till next week, but I really thought that all 3 of them were worthy of discussion today, obviously, but it is what it is. And I really think that the setup that we currently have and the way we're working, the way we changed it, is not really allowing time for adequate discussion. And I make at least one request, that we set up a meeting as the NCPRB Board of Directors to talk about these agreements and some of the other entanglements, because it's complicated and it's way overdue. And I really think that our relationships and what's in the best interest of the district is at risk if we delay this much longer. So I respectfully request that we have a meeting on NCPRD contract negotiations and SDCs and all of those items for a work session as soon as possible.
Well, Commissioner Savas, this morning during executive session, I expressed to you that we do need further discussion on these matters. I'm not sure what you expect this board to do on this, but we do have some decision points that sounds like need to be made. But I'm going to reiterate again to my commissioners, if you want to continue to do the work, we need everybody to show up and participate. This is our #1 job for the county. So just so the people listening out there know, the new schedule allows us for participation on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays with an executive session on Tuesdays. That's a lot of time we're meeting to get stuff done. It's important that we submit our questions in writing ahead of time. And be brief in our comments. A lot of the issues that I'm hearing are the issues that are continually being regurgitated, and we're not getting anywhere on a lot of them. We've made some important decisions today, and we will make some important decisions going forward, but we are an elected body of decision makers, and that's what we're supposed to do. Commissioner Scholl, is your hand up again?
So sorry. I failed to bring it down.
Okay, all righty. Commissioner Savas, we're almost done today, but if you want to stay and talk, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that as I was trying to allude to the fact that the way we were structured before, which I'm perfectly willing to do, is work on Tuesdays like we normally did. We normally completed our work sessions by 4 o'clock. And so am I ready to roll up my sleeves and go to work on Tuesdays like we have before and have substantive discussions at adequate time? Absolutely.
Well, Paul, you know what? It would have been nice if you would have brought that to me, not in a public forum for discussion on that. I am more than willing to schedule a meeting. But guess what? Commissioners need to show up, and we need to not be running around doing other items, attending this meeting and this meeting. Our number one duty is attending scheduled meetings that are noticed well in advance. Thank you very much for that, commissioners. Good work today, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.